The SIAPS Governors Performance Index is designed every month to review the performances of governors around Nigeria and then to ensure which ones are the best performing and the worst performing. All this is aimed to make the worst performing ones sit up and to applaud the best performing ones so that they keep up with their good works. Now, we do have members of SIAPS. We have Professor Anthony Kila here with us. Thank you for joining us this morning.
Thank you for having me.
And we have Muyiwa Ayoola here with us as well. Thank you for joining us this morning.
Thank you.
It's so good to have both of you. It's been a long time we had both of you at the same time. Yeah, so it's good to have you. Thank you for beating Lagos traffic. How was it, by the way?
Well, we planned for it. We're here.
And better than last month.
And better than last month.
Better than last month. We do hope our governors are better than last month as well.
Yes, indeed. You know, we're really excited about knowing who, obviously, every month we look forward to who topped the table and, unfortunately, those who didn't quite do so well. And perhaps we should have some form of reward system whereby, you know, the best governor gets something and then
accumulate points.
Accumulate points.
Yes.
And then, well, enough for the lower governors.
Yeah.
I think the naming and shaming is enough, you know, for them. Reward system for them. And without further ado,
We'll go into the details. But first of all, for those who are just tuning in for the first time, we'd like you to tell us briefly, what is SIAPS? What is SIAPS about?
Well, SIAPS is a Center for International Advanced and Professional Studies. What we try to do, and we've been having some success and some problem in doing that, is to train mostly graduates and people who have equivalent qualification for their chosen profession. The idea is that there's a lot of emphasis in Nigeria on certification and little emphasis on content. So what we try to do is to focus really on content. So we do programs in areas of development like media and communications, your area, banking and finance, project management, business management, and education. So the idea, what we try to do is to be, as it were, a factory of professionals, where we train them for such things. And we'll have a lot of our programs and our mode of operating on the SIAPS website, which is siaps.org.
Okay, that's fantastic. Now, you're the center director and the CGPI chairperson.
Yes.
And Muyiwa Ayoola, you are the coordinator.
Yes.
Okay, now let's go into the reason why I gathered here today. We're talking about the performance of governors. Okay. So far, El Rufai has been topping the chart. We did have the first 3 months in office. We analyzed the performance of governors for the first 3 months. El Rufai was topping. Last month, he was the governor of this month. Please tell me we have another governor of the month.
Well, he's still the governor of the month.
wow.
Okay.
It is, but there's no surprise, you see. It's a very straightforward thing. When you do these things without any kind of partisan or personal emotions attached to it, because the variables we use are the variables that are used for every one of them. So,
And what are these variables?
well, this month, the variables are payment of salary, their activities in education, new projects that they've done, security,
Yeah.
and we try to see some leadership by example, how they're leading the pack, you know, things that they should be doing by now, you know, things that are crucial. The payment of salary we consider very important because if people are not being paid for months, it will be the most important thing in their families and in their house. And, you know, if you work for somebody, you should be paid.
All right. Now, who are we already have established who topped the table in terms of
Yes.
the best governor of the month. But one thing I think we'd like to focus on today are the states that are non-performing and why they're non-performing, the governors, and the reason why they're not performing, and what could be, you know, I've said it again and again, but what could be the reason for this
The reason
situation?
All right. The 5 worst governors, and
Okay.
that's how we've termed it, is Kogi State,
okay.
Yobe State, Ebonyi State, Zamfara State, and Akwa Ibom State.
Again.
Zamfara was there last time,
Yes.
and Akwa Ibom.
Yes. Now,
Akwa Ibom was there last time, too.
yes.
Exactly.
Now, for the case of Ebonyi State, and I'd like to pick that as an example. Ebonyi State, and I think I've said it here the last time we came, was that Ebonyi State has, as we speak, 24 commissioners. It's one of the smallest states in Nigeria. I don't think Ebonyi State has any business with 24 commissioners. And we have a retinue of special advisors, assistants. And not just that, within the same month, the same state that is owing an average of 6 months' salary just bought new SUVs for all the commissioners.
Talk about misplaced priorities.
Yes, the same state, they don't have money to
Well,
pay
this
workers.
is shocking. So I need to just emphasize on that a little bit. In Nigeria, we see this a lot of times happening, whereby we see states or organizations who haven't paid salaries yet the owners or the governors in this case are not sensitive to the plight of the unpaid workers, whereby they are living lavish lifestyles. Case in point, Oyo State. Even though he said he wasn't spending state money, but a lot of people felt that as leader, as governor, as chief servant, he ought to have been a bit more sensitive to the plight of his workers, not have such a lavish wedding ceremony in another country. Do you know how many people could have earned money from that wedding? I'm sorry I'm bringing this back, but it's just going back to the state of the Ebonyi.
It makes sense, going back to the Ebonyi, and you're right to link it, because you asked an earlier question, how do we arrive at these differences? You see, once you miss a point, it tends to link with the other points.
Yes.
Now, so you have a Ebonyi State that is not paying salary. It's got bloated governance as it was, spending like 24 commissioners in a very small state, and salaries are not being paid, and they have a lot of expenses. So when you link those things together with the other variables, that is where problem starts from. So you're not paying salary, you're not in tune with the country, with the mood of the country, where revenues are decreasing, and you're leading by the example. So it's not difficult to move from there to see how the variables all fit in together, if that makes sense. You know, you miss one point, and that point that you've missed tends to be a reflection or consequence of other points that you're missing.
So that's like it has a ripple effect.
It has a ripple effect, yes. On
Then
every other thing, yes.
How about the other governor and other states, though? Because for Ebonyi, obviously misplaced priorities, perhaps mismanagement of funds as well. Because if you have enough money to buy SUVs, you should at least be able to pay 1 month's salary.
Because the point is that the governor cannot say that there are not enough cars in the government pool to give the new commissioners. I mean, it's just like you said, it's a case of misplaced priorities. Now,
you pick on Akwa Ibom, for example.
Yes.
You know, for Akwa Ibom to be owing state workers, it's really on the verge of deplorable, if it's not there at all yet. You know, this is a state that is so small, so rich, has a very high, if not the highest, revenue sharing in the state. And you have celebrated past and present governors who are owing the people that oil the wheel of this governance. So that's very wrong. You know, for that alone, you tend to score very low on everything. But if you then look at all the things as well, you know, whilst we're celebrating these governors and they get front page for bizarre things, the nitty-gritty of education, of new projects, of security, are not good. So you will be surprised why they're scoring very low. You know, it's the joy of numbers is that things become self-evident when you grade it that way. When you do not allow, I notice a lot of time, and you journalists, you allow them, when you allow public people to speak, there's so much time to explain. They keep explaining and going round it. But when you give people a spreadsheet to fill, yes or no, 5 out of 10, it puts things in perspectives.
So, for instance, are you trying to say that all these governors have not introduced a new policy or started a new project in the past 30 days?
Now, for example, let's pick Kogi State, for example.
One of the worst performing.
Well, he's not new. We need to bear that in mind. He's one of the
even make his own case worse.
Yeah.
Now, there's an election, you know, well, there's an electionary campaign going on.
Yes.
We're going to have another election before the end of the year. And because part of the work we do is to monitor the states to see how they do. In the last 1 month, and the governor has gone from one town, one local government to the other to campaign, I have noticed that he has not pointed to one single thing he has done. It's so ridiculous that the governor actually called together a media roundtable, and they were celebrating the launching of a website for the State Scholarship Board. This is something that a 20-year-old boy does like 10 every single day.
I see Victor laughing, I just have to say that, because I'm sure he's just as shocked at the news as we are.
It's so ridiculous.
And they must have spent so much money.
I'm sure the money spent to have that lavish party is even more than what is spent on the website.
But let's be fair to Kogi State. Unfortunately for us as Nigerians, this is a common thread in the way we do things. You know, we lots of states, lots of governments spend more money on launching than some of the project itself. But, you know,
I wonder how much the Lagos State website launch cost, because we do know how much the website
how much it was paid. No, it wasn't launched.
It wasn't.
Oh, they
Wasn't
spent
lunch.
all the money for the launching
For
on the
your-
website.
for the
Oh,
building.
yeah,
For
all
the-
right.
I mean, we just saw it on
On the-
the state, website.
But so far, can we say that there has been a progress in the performance of our governors starting from when they got into office? Are we seeing a considerable progress, or are we actually going back?
Well, if we lower expectations, which is what we do a lot in Nigeria, then we can see progress. If you consider the progress that somebody has nominated cabinet, then hooray. Then there's a lot of progress. You know, if you really want to do what's that Nigerian phrase? He's trying. If we really want to do that he's trying thing, then there are progress. But if we want to do a very objective analysis of what governance should be in 2015, we're not there yet.
So basically, I think
To buttress the point, and I mentioned the last time that even the fact that we have to have payment of salary as one of the parameters shows the kind of people we are. I mean, in this day and age, it shouldn't be part of it.
I was just going to say briefly that what this shows is that we have gotten so used to having a terrible economy, such that when we see a little positive change, we begin to applaud them. We applaud governors for doing things they ought to do. We applaud people for taking out their responsibilities and doing them, even though they're not doing them diligently. We still have a lot to talk about. And on that note, we're going over to the news center. When we come back, the conversation continues shortly. Stay tuned. We're back to the Good Morning Nigeria studios, where we are reviewing governors' performances for the month of October. Now, as you know, we do it every month. We have the SIAPS chairperson and the coordinator. We have Muyiwa Ayoola, the coordinator of SIAPS, by my immediate right. Thank you for joining us again.
Thank you.
And we have Professor Anthony Kila by my far right, and he's here as well to analyze this with us. Thank you for joining us, sir.
Thanks for having me.
So we've had a very, very elaborate discussion before we went on a break. We're going to try and touch on a few areas before we head out of here to entertainment. So basically, on a scale of 1 to 10, these worst performing governors, where do we rate them? Is it because we do know that in a class of very bright students,
Yes.
we could have some people who are the last, who came out last, but their percentage is super high, or it's just because they're very bright students? What is the percentage of these worst performing governors?
Well, put it this way, the highest performing is about 72%, and these ones scored under 35.
Wow.
The worst performing one. I mean, it's very easy to see why, because when you start scoring 5% or so on payment of salary, the way high is very high. You have a long place to climb to get to the top. You don't pay salaries, you don't do new projects, you lag behind in security, and you're not placing emphasis on education, which is a crucial thing for development. We argue, so that puts people on a low place.
Speaking of payment of salaries, really bothers me because I'm also a worker and I understand the plight of not being paid as a worker. So basically, can we name and shame the states that haven't paid salaries?
But that's going to be a very long list.
We have a long list.
Okay, no, actually, let's talk about the ones that have paid.
That have paid.
We
Let's
actually
celebrate.
spoke about the one that paid last. I actually think maybe we should pick some of the chronic ones.
Yeah.
For example, Abia State is very chronic.
Abia.
Now, yes, I also need to mention that, you know, in states, you have the core civil servants. Then you have the ones that work for parastatals. You have local. For example, Kwara is not indebted to their civil servants, but its own local government workers.
Okay.
Yeah. So there's also that. But what I keep saying is this thing: these are human beings.
Whether civil servants
whether civil servant, whether they were. So, for example, Abia State, apart from owing salaries on the average of about 6 months, is also indebted to the state teaching service, teaching hospital for 9 months, hospital management board for 8 months, universal basic education board for 7 months, state polytechnic for 6 months. Talking about Abia State.
Abia State is
Then Ogun State. Whilst for the state civil servants about 4 months, they actually have not remitted 52 months of pension deductions in Ogun State.
In Ogun State.
Yes.
Ogun State is
52
Amosu,
months, yes.
who is arresting people, bloggers and people like that. Perhaps it should, focus on in IGR. Maybe
Very
Enugu
important
State
point.
is indebted to parastatal for an upward of 12 months.
Enugu State.
Yes.
And they voted in PDP again, didn't they? You know, they say the people get the government that they deserve. You get the leader that you deserve, because at the end of the day, this man hadn't paid for about 6 months before they knew he hadn't paid their salaries, yet they voted.
Well, it's a new governor, so...
No, that's what I'm saying. 12 months was before the
party.
new government came into power. So when, what's his name, the fine governor?
The one that left?
Yes, Sullivan
Sullivan
Chime.
Chime.
When he was there, he didn't pay salaries because this is 12 months.
Yeah.
But they voted Sullivan Chime's party again.
It's just really heartbreaking to see this list. I did recall there was a time that the Abia State governor had said that they should drop all titles. They should not call him His Excellency, or they should remove all those titles. He sounded like a very modest man.
These are all matters of
those are good
semantics. Seriously, I keep saying, it's a matter of semantics. I would rather, if you want you to be called whatever your lordship, as long as you perform. I mean, tell you that your chief servant, whatever title everybody just feels, I mean, wakes up one day and just feel, this is what I want to be called. Do what is right. If you want to be executive governor, that's your business. Just do what is right.
So now if you're watching, you should know that if you hear the name of your state, then your governor isn't owing. But if you do not hear their names, then your governor is among the debtors. It's time for naming and shaming. So let's call the names of those who have paid. And anyone who doesn't hear their state there.
Okay. Those are not...
No, those that have paid. Because they're
paid
late.
salaries,
Well,
exactly.
maybe we need to preamble this. Most states have not paid. Most states are not up to date. Out of the 36 states, I think less than 10. 12 of them have actually
Have
paid
paid.
off.
So what are the 12 states?
So the good ones are Adamawa State
Adamawa.
have paid, Anambra has paid,
Okay.
Bayelsa has
That's
paid
very
up,
good.
Borno State is not owing. They just have
Even
bonds.
though they have issues.
They have issues.
Interesting,
But-
they just have bombs.
Yeah,
They are not
they're paying
doing
salaries.
anything. I mean, they're not doing anything. So, I mean, they should have enough money.
But
Whatever allocation
let's
that
just
comes.
celebrate them that they've paid.
They
Yeah.
have actually,
Celebrate.
they are going through a serious
Yes, and
phase
yet
right
they're
now
paying
with
salary,
the
so-
whole internally displaced
So do you
persons
think
there.
the fact that they were under administration by the first
Now
state-
they can stop
Gombe,
attacking
they're going to stop.
his wife?
But there's some disputes going on there. There's some people saying they're not paid, and the governor argues. It's not
Where, what
but,
state?
in Edo State. But generally they have paid. They have paid generally. Kaduna State is up to date, has paid. Lagos State has paid.
As usual, I would have.
They always pay.
Nasarawa has paid.
Okay.
Niger State.
Please tell me
Has paid
Delta
up.
has paid.
No, I won't tell you that has paid
no.
because they've not paid. Sokoto State has paid. Taraba State has paid.
Oh, good.
Delta will pay, but it has not paid.
But you
yet.
see, none of the oil-producing states have paid. That is very worrying.
You see, that's the thing. That's one of those myths we have in Nigeria and some underdeveloping countries. The idea to think that it is the natural resources, is what you have, that makes you develop is a myth. What makes people develop is governance, is the rule of law, is transparency, and is accountability, and ideas. It is not what you have; it is what you do.
Okay.
Now, the former commissioner for economic planning in Lagos State, Ben Akaboize, said something, and he said when he was interviewed that Lagos State has a wage policy, which is that they will not spend more than 30%.
I think you mentioned this the last
Yes.
time. and
But he needs to reiterate it because we should learn. You know, other governors should
That's
learn.
why I'm reiterating it again, that perhaps other states can also learn to do this.
So there's always something to fall back
There's
on.
always something, no matter how bad it is from federal allocation, from taxes in the state, at least they'll be able to have that 30% to pay workers. Now, for other states, there's so much indiscipline going on. You employ workers you don't need. It's one of the problems that most of those states are having. Seriously, a time has to come. There's need for some surgical operation in some states. Perhaps.
On that note, we do hope that as many of you that are watching would speak to your governors or pray for them and these surgical operations start to take place and we do see a drastic improvement. I would actually be happy if someone topples Nasir El-Rufai's report by the end of this month to show that people are sitting up, although it does seem sort of a miracle. So kudos to the Kaduna State government, shortly followed by Sokoto, I would guess.
By Sokoto State,
Sokoto
yes.
State,
Sokoto
all right.
is done well.
Kudos to them, and we hope that the 5 worst performing states will take a cue from this report and sit up, buckle up. We want to see performances. Thank you very much for coming.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank you
you.
for having us.
We have been discussing with Professor Anthony Kila and Muyiwa Ayoola, and they are both from SIAPS. And we're going on a quick break. When we come back, entertainment standing by.
So, did you like what you just saw? I know you did. It's very simple. If you want to see more, just subscribe to our channel right now.